Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Colmore Business District's annual general meeting. Thanks for taking the time out of a Thursday evening. This, of course, is a unique experience for holding an AGM virtually, one that perhaps will be over before too long. We hope you enjoyed your own warm white wine and vol au vents. Next time, we hope we'll be providing them for you. I'm Kevin Johnson from Urban Communications. It's my pleasure to guide you through the evening. Think of me as if you will, as the Jackie Weaver of the night ahead. On that note, please do keep yourselves on mute. There are no standing orders to observe in this meeting other than that. We'll call on you later for questions, and Chris in the back room of Zoom will open you up and spotlight you and bring you your microphone live if we take your question later on. But do feel free to applaud and cheer in the now familiar ways that you can on Zoom. Yes, the hands up, the clapping, whatever else you can find in the reactions. Waving with your own actual physical hands is also welcome. And do please keep your cameras on, because presenting to a bunch of black holes is pretty disconcerting if you're presenting. So keep your faces live so we can see the kind of reaction that our board directors are having tonight. We are recording the meeting for future reference, so if you're not actually supposed to be here, then that is the time to turn your camera off, or perhaps leave entirely if you're supposed to be somebody else. The chat function will be available to talk to Chris in the back room, as it were. Send your questions if you've got them into him, and towards the end of the session, when all the presentations are done, we'll pick some of those questions out and call upon you to ask them. So chat away by all means, but it will be just to Chris. He's a very friendly guy. Also throughout the evening, we're going to have a series of very simple polls gauging your reaction to certain issues and questions relevant to the presentations you're going to hear. So please do engage in those. And of course, we'll keep a record of what the results are. Now, I was very, very marginally involved in the creation of Colmore Bid all those years ago. And I remember we used to talk about it, the benefits for the bid in terms of community and placemaking, of creating a sense of identity and improving communications among stakeholders and users of the area. And many of us have not been in the district, or very seldom, for the last 12 months or so. But in many ways, I think Colmore Bid has come into its own in the last year as a community. You're going to hear lots about that tonight. Tonight is, of course, our AGM with reports. You'd have already received our physical report, or at least the electronic version of our physical report. And tonight is your opportunity to question the board on anything you fancy relevant to what Colmore Bid does. But above all, it's a time for the Colmore community to come together again, to connect and to share stories. So please enjoy, even though it has that moniker of AGM over the top. Now, the Colmore Bid board that you're going to hear many of them tonight is drawn from across the business community, representing large, small, corporate and independent businesses. We're joined by our key partners tonight: Birmingham City Council, Transport for West Midlands and West Midlands Police. And the board oversee the work delivered on your behalf, which you're going to hear about tonight. Now, our first speaker needs no introduction, but I'm contractually obliged to give her one. She is the Chief Executive Officer and Business Development Director of I've seen it on our website, so it must be true, the Birmingham City Centre Estate Agent. She's also got a finger in the pie of the Jewellery Quarter, but of course we know her best as Chair of Colmore Bid, who is tonight going to talk about not only a role as Chair of Colmore Bid, but also Chair of the Business Matters Working Group. So you're going to hear from our Chair on both the overall position and the particular area of the business that she looks after on a more regular basis. So please, a warm welcome in a Zoom type fashion for the one and only Nicola Fleet-Mill.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, Kevin. I don't feel I've got to give everybody the chapter and verse on what else I do now. Thank you very much. So this has been my first year as chair. I took over last January from Gary Cardin, who had been the chair for 11 years, thinking, you know, it's all been done. We've gone through a successful reballot yet again. I'm literally being given a fully functional, really exceptional chair position here. and there's probably not an awful lot that I can make a difference this year. Clearly, that all changed in March, and it's gone from being, what was going to be probably a more comfortable position to one that I've absolutely loved it. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a very interesting year, but my goodness, it's really put me through my paces. So for all of you out there who have been very supportive and have reached out at various points and given feedback or just been there for me, thank you very much. It's been incredible. So I'm going to start by just reading out my opening remarks from the actual report that you will have been sent, just because I thought it was a bit odd for it to be on screen and it not for me to be delivered from me personally. So in a year that has been challenging and unpredictable, I'm pleased to be able to report back to businesses on the activities the BID has undertaken to support businesses through this unforgettable year. Some businesses have remained operational in some format in the district, and some will have seen our frontline, and therefore will have seen our frontline activities across the year. Many of you will have spent the year working from home and may not be aware of what we have been doing to care for the district in your absence. Some businesses have had an extremely difficult year and may want to know more about what we have done and will be doing to support them. So without further ado, I will just give you a little bit of a report back from Business Matters. So the point of the Business Matters working group is that we serve a more strategic purpose. So there are many working groups, all of whom you are going to hear from today, who do more physical, tangible work that you can go out and see and touch and feel. The role that we play at Business Matters is more strategic, a little bit more high level, in some cases is some lobbying. So the slide that you can see in front of you at the moment is a few things that I'd just like to talk through with you. So firstly, prior to COVID hitting last March, there are 5 city centre bids, and every other month, bi-monthly, we would bring together the 5 chairs of the city centre bids and talk about what we had on projects, what challenges we had on, where we could be of help to one another, joint projects, working with the council to get various projects delivered. And obviously with COVID coming along, that needed to happen more frequently. Actually, we changed that from bi-monthly to weekly. So it was really lovely actually to be able to work so closely with the other 4 bids. And I think the city centre actually will be a better place for it, because that happened back in March, but it has continued since. We've dialed it down to monthly now. But actually that has been incredibly useful to us all and to those bids as well. We work very closely with Birmingham City Council and with other strategic partners. We also needed to come up with a recovery strategy. Obviously back in April, May, this was the one and only recovery strategy anybody was expecting. This was write your document and be ready for when we come out of lockdown and the world will go back to a normal pace and we will need to know what we need to do. As you will all be well aware from having put together your own strategies in your own companies, that became a very working document. It became reviewed on at least a weekly frequency and continues to this day to be something that we continue looking at. So there have been those moments where we have emerged. So, sort of September, October last year, we were able to do things that were more physical and more out in the community as such, but throughout the whole of the last year, that recovery strategy has been a working document. In amongst that, one of the things that was particularly important to us is we do actually have City Centre Strategic Board. Now, this has been running for many years. I was certainly not the creator of this, but this has been a board that is made up of the 5 bids, the City Council and a number of other strategic partners who feed in at certain times. So Transport for West Midlands may attend if there is something specific to the city centre and how it's going to impact us. It was important actually in the light of COVID to make sure that that was particularly pointed in the right direction to get the right result. So we basically drew up new terms of reference, drew up our expectations, and that board is now absolutely excellent. We're taking things forward. So, and the council are working incredibly well with us. So it's really quite a pleasure to be on that now. We have also commissioned a report to better understand the future of city centre business districts. Now, this is actually a live project at the moment. We have issued a call for evidence. We're trying to imagine for the future, what does a city centre business district look like in light of all of the changes? So whether that be office use or hospitality, or just physical transport, people coming in and out of cities, or residential, you know, the interaction with that city district, what will that look like in the future? We need your help to feed evidence into that. It is being run by our partners over at the University of Birmingham with City Ready, but they need the evidence from everybody. So we will follow up with a link for everybody to go and have a look at. We need all kinds of evidence. Whether that is a high-level report that your firm has created, all the way down to new starters in your firm. What were they expecting? You know, perhaps they joined the firm during lockdown, and when they come to your firm after lockdown is all finished, what will that look like for them? What would they like it to look like? What their expectations going forward? So anybody who can fill out evidence will be it will be gratefully received. We will all, Chris has actually just put the link into the chat as well, so you can go and have a look at that there. That is on our website. And finally, something that I thought was very important, as a female, I'm fairly used to being in the minority on a board, but I have to say that the last year has obviously brought equality even more to the fore. And as a board, we have made a decision to work with the Governance Forum to incorporate both the race code and have all of our governance looked at to ensure that we can bolster our commitment to diversity. So there will be a call for applications to join either the board or working groups in probably the next quarter. And that will be heavily underpinned by our desire to have diversity in all fashions, so ages, sex, religions and colours, everything really. We want to make sure that actually we can better represent the people that that are out in our levy paying district. So it's all very important to us. Please keep an eye on all of the calls coming forward. So that's what Business Matters has been up to. Very happy to take any questions. I'm not sure there'll be lots of them, but if anyone does have any questions, please do just ask.
Great stuff, Nicola. Thank you very much. Yes, do get your questions in. Use the chat function. That'll go straight into Chris, who is beaving away in the back room, as it were, for this event. And we'll bring those questions up for Nicola at the end of all the presentations, and of course there'll be an opportunity to chat in the breakout rooms at the very end. But throughout the evening, we're running a series of polls, and this is going to be our first one. And we're going to have two, in fact, questions are going to appear. I think most of you will be familiar with how to respond to Zoom polls. There you go, appearing is the first one. When will you be reopening your office? March or April, May or June, July, August, September, October, November, December? You're already fully open, or later than the above options. If you would click on one of those, and then you'll see a bit further down, there's a second question. What percentage of your office do you see returning on the date? 80 to 100, 60 to 79%, 40 to 59, 20 to 39, less than 20, or not returning in the above period. Fill those questions in if you would, and magically in a few seconds we'll get some results spewing out the back.
I feel that this is my moment as I'm walking out of I've got off the podium and I'm going back to my seat.
Yeah, looking for that glass of white wine you hid under the chair.
The warm one with the vol au vents.
Indeed, indeed. All right, are we all in, Chris? Yeah.
Yeah, if you're, yeah, you can happy to talk about results now. Yeah.
Yeah, let's have a look at the results then.
Drum roll, please.
There we go.
Okay.
So May, June, I think, wins out on when will you be opening your reopening your office. 2/5. With about half of that, just
So
over.
already open.
Already open in one fashion or another, I should think, a quarter. And then a fairly even split in terms of what percentage do you see returning. Evenly split, particularly on those 3, possibly 4 top categories. Well, we might reflect on that when we come back to questions later, and I can say certainly from Future Business District, this kind of input is all very, very useful indeed. Thanks for taking part in that. We'll have more polls throughout the evening. We're going to move on to our next speaker, and he is the Divisional Director at Bruin Dolphin, Chair of the Accessible and Connected Working Group. Fit that on your business card if you would. Please give a warm welcome to Paul Fielding, who's going to talk to you now about what his group has been up to over the last year. Paul.
Hello, evening. Lovely to see my picture joining there. I'm a big fan of that picture, as the other guys know. So anyway, good evening, everybody. I'd just like to say, you know, when you think of transport matters, you know, obviously there's a lot of people working from home at the moment. It might be easy to think that things have fallen off the radar. However, really, that is far from the case. It's been very busy indeed. There's been lots going on, disseminating news and recommendations at the start of the first pandemic on what you should be doing in reference to public transport. You know, and also in terms of helping to design what travel to the district will look like really in the new normal. Now, it's important to say we're not a transport body like Transport for West Midlands. We're not a highway authority like the council are, but the Accessible and Connected Working Group, obviously we represent a lot of businesses and a lot of employees in the area. So we do have an important voice. We're proactive, I can hear myself, sorry, proactive and reactive for the district on transport matters. Over the last 12 months, I can hear myself, sorry. Is somebody off mute?
Like I say, Chris will try and find you, but if you happen to come off mute, anybody watching on, remute yourself.
Paul, try muting your own computer. Might be your voice coming back at you in your computer.
No. Anyway, I'll carry on. I'll power through, shall we say? Yeah. So where was I? Yeah, e-scooters. We've seen that you've got a lovely picture of them there. They were seen for the first time in 2020, and we gave our views over about them. They've proven to be very, very popular. Lots and lots of journeys, despite the pandemic. People are using them. Personally, I've not tried them, largely because I've not been in Birmingham city centre much at all. But I'm assured our chief executive has been on one, and I'm assured by her that they're very good fun. They're good, so give them a go. Give them a go if you are back in Birmingham. The pandemic itself has obviously brought public health to the forefront of everybody's minds, and you know, the clean air zone itself was delayed by the pandemic. We've used this time to help the council in its preparations. That includes working towards being business ready for June when it actually kicks in. So Birmingham, like many other cities and towns, rolled out emergency traffic measures during the pandemic in order to ensure that we were all COVID safe, and quite rightly so. We very much had a say in how these were designed and delivered. We had concerns about the new segments approach to assessing the actual district itself. The proposal itself actually split the bid boundaries, geographies in two. So when the measures were piloted, it transpired that we were actually right in what we were saying. So that what was good about it is that they were put right very, very quickly. Changes were made quickly as a result. So it's good to have a voice, shall we say. One thing really that is a positive from the pandemic, in my view, is active travel, and cycling in particular has had a huge boost. You know, I don't think you could actually buy a bike at one point. They were that difficult to get hold of. Being a cyclist myself, I see that as a real positive. So in order to help those who make journeys by bike, and indeed those who may wish to make journeys by bike in the future, we actively support the likes of Cycling Works for Birmingham. You can see it on the screen there. I'd urge any companies to sign up for it if you want your people actively travelling. It's fantastic what they try to do. We've got fully behind their calls for better routes through the city centre in particular, and obviously that includes the Colmore Business District. Being a cyclist myself, as I've said, you can sometimes feel a little bit abandoned going through the actual centre. Great getting in, but coming to the centre, it's much more difficult. We're going to continue to push this as a group. We want to push the cycling and make it safe for everybody, really. We've been working closely with Transport for West Midlands to help design the road layouts needed for the cross-city bus project. This should help end frustrations to any of those who take journeys by bus that go through the city centre. It should definitely mean that fewer people have to hop on and off of buses in town, as they'll be able to take direct services going straight through. So really, just to finish, the pandemic itself has left people, quite understandably, I suppose, disinclined to use public transport. But you know, for us, we think it's important. You know, climate change is an issue. Pollution-related health issues. We have to get back to public transport if we can, as soon as we can. So buses, trams, trains, or ideally walk or cycle. So we're going to be working with the transport authorities. We already do. It's going to continue to help make that happen, so that, you know, however many times you commute into work during the week, we can help you do so safely and also sustainably. So that's all from me.
Thank you, Paul. Well done. You pushed on through the adversity of audio issues there, I noticed. Well done to you.
A pro, you see, Kevin.
Indeed. Was ever thus. One question for you, really relating around COVID and the clean air zone. It's been shown, of course, that the safest way for people to travel of late, to some degree, has been by using the car, maybe again, or going back to the car. And people are probably going to continue with this maybe into the future. Why are you and the bid so supportive of the clean air zone coming in on the schedule that that is designed in now?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask that question, Kevin. Thanks. I think that it's, you know, some people have reverted back to driving into the city, you know, and given what was happening with the pandemic, you can kind of understand why they did that. You know, there are, however, you know, a lot of people who don't own cars. They're not in a position to drive. So, you know, the reality is public transport is definitely going to be needed as many of the areas of the UK open back up. For us, it's the poor air quality. Really, it is a big issue. It needs tackling. Now, you know, unsurprisingly, during the pandemic, the actual levels have dropped, and that's, you know, just symptomatic of the fact that not as many people are driving by car into the area. But obviously this won't persist once we begin moving around again. The city's air, it's not good. It kills thousands of people every single year. You know, so when it's safe, we are definitely encouraging people to continue using public transport. You know, get around by cycling, by walking if you can. You know, leave the car at home if you possibly can. Clean air zone is definitely part of the solution to the problem of pollution. We do support it. It's part of a long-term response to an issue it's been around for a long time. It was going to happen at some point. So we're hopeful that, you know, it was an issue before, like I say, and it will continue to be an issue afterwards. Hence why we're supportive of it.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Very, very useful. Right. Let's go to a couple of poll questions on Paul's area, accessible and connected. Let's have those questions up. 2 questions here again, which you can now see in front of you. Just tick the multiple choice options there. In terms of returning to the office, how will you travel in? Is the first of those 2 questions. And then secondly, is that different to pre-COVID? Can anybody remember pre-COVID? But is that different to pre-COVID? There was a world before Zoom. And by the way, Nicola Fleetman, I've spotted your red wine. So, cheers. So, cheers to everybody else who's having. I'm not drinking because I'm, you know, almost working, but I hope you're all enjoying a drink out there or something. And we should do that. Tick your answers to those 2 questions about returning to the office and travel. And a reminder, whilst you finish off that, to do, by all means, let Chris know if you've got a question on this area, Chris Brown, and he'll pick that up, and we'll try and pick up as many questions as we can towards the end. So there we are. Results are in. 41%. Don't know what you think about that, Paul, but 41% are going to be travelling in by car.
To be honest with you, Kevin, I think it's obvious, you know, it's something that people are going to do. That, you know, at first, the hope is that once people realise that, well, once the hope is that the things are safe, they'll revert back to what they were doing before, or indeed changing over what they were doing. That's, you know, at the end of the day, there is the clean air zone. We encourage people as much as possible to not travel by car.
Good.
Sorry, interrupting you. Yeah.
No, not at all. You heard it here first. I'm sure Councillor Jones, who's on the call, would back that up, and Deputy Leader of the Council. So there we are. That's what you think about that. Now we're going to move on to our next speaker, and I do say speaker because he may appear in video, he may just appear as a voice. Either way, I'm sure it'll be brilliant. He's the Director and Head of Office Advisory at Lambert Smith Hampton and Chair of the Place Marketing and Hospitality Working Group for Colmore Bid. He is, I think, oh, look at him. He's in vision. Marvellous. He's in vision. Alex Tross, of course, you'll recognise. He is officially, and I do mean officially, he is Man About Colmore. And the Man About Colmore is going to be marvellously unmuted and is going to tell you all about what his group has been up to. Alex.
Thank you. Oh.
I think Alex we may have discovered that you're on twice somehow. So if you can find your other version of you, Alex. Yes, I can see. Yeah. Hopefully Chris will now probably try and unmute you, I should think.
Is that better?
That's better. Here we go. Man About Colmore himself, Alex Tross. Take it away.
I'm delighted, actually, I can live here because I've put on a new shirt for the occasion. So that was almost a waste. So recovered. But no, thanks, Kevin. Much appreciated. So 2020 was challenging for many sectors. But I think we'd all agree the hospitality sector suffered more than most. The key's in the name, hospitality. So the idea of bringing people together. Most of us had to adapt to how we work. But for this industry, the principle that sits at its very core is the one thing that we spent the last 12 months not being able to do. At the beginning of the pandemic, the government announced a series of grants to support the sector. And we worked closely with Birmingham City Council to ensure that those businesses that were entitled to those grants received them as quickly as possible. And as further grant schemes have been announced throughout the year, we have continued to keep businesses informed of those schemes and work through cases to try and ensure businesses receive this vital cash flow as quickly as possible. The summer seems like a long time ago now, but I'm sure you'll remember that brief respite when businesses started to open up, albeit with restrictions and social distancing in place. We were conscious that there was a lot of information out there, but it wasn't always easy to find. With this in mind, we put together a guide for hospitality on what the advice was and how to reopen safely. And as the guidance changed, we kept our documents up to date, which meant that businesses were able to find out the latest advice in one place. We shared this across the city to aid with keeping everyone who lives, works and visits the city centre as safe as possible. We've also continued to champion the sector throughout the pandemic, whether that's using our online food festival celebration and cookbooks to remind people of the incredible venues we have in the district, or supporting the call for better, more targeted support through negotiating in partnership with organisations such as the Chamber of Commerce, or amplifying the message of national campaigns such as Raise the Bar. We're also looking to the future by exploring a new partnership with online ordering service Yoello. Of course, all our businesses have found the year to be challenging, as mentioned. We've acted as a nexus point for information. Our coronavirus support hub was created to help you cut through the noise and access easy to digest information on the support available for your businesses and employees. We moved our publications online, including Colmore Life magazine, which through Colmore Light kept you up to date with a broad spectrum of news. The key to all of this has been communication, and Chris Brown joined the team earlier in the pandemic to work on elevating our comms as promised in our business plan. Despite all of this, we now know there is light at the end of the tunnel given the announcement on Monday. Lockdown won't last forever, and there are opportunities ahead of us, not least in the form of the benefit that we'll see from the Commonwealth Games and a continuation of the benefit we've already seen from HS2, etc. We've taken the decision, therefore, to merge the place marketing and leisure and hospitality groups, and we believe this will allow us to engage better with the hospitality sector itself and connect them at a more strategic level with opportunities to help them and the city as a wider entity recover. So that's a quick whistle-stop tour of what we've done in place marketing and hospitality.
Great stuff, Alex. Getting the shirt out was worthwhile after all. Good stuff. One question at the end of all of that, as you say, it's been a particularly difficult year for hospitality. Can that industry, can all the great bars, cafes, restaurants in the district survive? And if so, what will the bid do to help them?
Well, the short answer is absolutely. I think what we've seen in my day job as office advisor, as you mentioned at the top of this section, I have a lot of conversation with occupiers and landlords about how they're approaching their office requirements. And the reality is we've seen a significant uptick in interest and inquiries about office space since the new year. I think that will now accelerate given that people have an actual timeline as to how they can re-emerge into the city. We were talking actually briefly in the chat before the presentation with a few people about their approach to the office, and we saw from the poll earlier that actually there's a significant appetite to come back for lots of reasons that relate to well-being and training and all those things that the office provides, in addition to the sort of bedrock of social value. So I think as that happens, an added incentive beyond the things I've just touched on will be the things that you can't access whilst working in your office at home. And it will be about amenity and all those things that make Colmore life and the wider experience so special. It is the bars, it is the ability to meet your friends and have coffees and those incidental meetings that actually stitch the rest of our sort of commercial lives together. And that really is about a vibrant and thriving hospitality sector. They work in tandem, they need the footfall and the footfall needs them. But I think certainly as we've seen, people will be back in the city centre. They will be back in offices, probably with a smaller footprint, and with more exciting, more interesting, more dynamic office space, but they'll be back. I'm very confident of that given the conversations I'm having. And I think part of that resurgence will be absolutely reliant upon a really healthy, thriving sector. Now, as the bid, we've done a number of things and we'll continue to do many things and initiatives to support that sector. So things like events, networking opportunities, we've hosted wellbeing weeks and so on and so forth, and those things will continue. We, as a particular working group, are working very hard to respond to the specific needs of the sector. So we engage them on a regular basis through various forums. And that information we get allows us to better respond to their specific needs, and then they can actually do what they do best to as I say, support that wider Colmore life.
Great, Alex, thank you very much. I think I can probably talk to everybody and say we're all very much looking forward to getting back and taking advantage of the fantastic hospitality offer we've got in the district and the wider city. Let's move to our next poll. I think just one question at this time. There it is on your screens for you. What would entice you back into the district? I mean, that's obviously apart from seeing Alex in that marvellous shirt. What would entice you back into the district? The answers there: options, markets, food events, more outdoor art projects, Commonwealth Games, of course, street entertainment, Christmas events. Choose those, and we'll see what thoughts you have on that. I think we possibly should have had an extra poll for choosing who was wearing the favourite shirt or outfit from the board directors that you're seeing tonight, but we'll think about that for another time. So I think that's probably enough time, isn't it, Chris? There, thanks very much. There we go. What will entice you back? Venues reopening, 88%. Food, 7/10 there, and very good results for markets as well. But lots of those things are going to entice you back, but particularly venues of one sort or another are certainly going to entice you back. Thanks very much for that. We'll capture all of that. And meanwhile, we'll move on to our next speaker. And this is going to be talking about the Outstanding Places Working Group and what that group has been up to. To tell you all about that is partner at DWF Law, chair of that group. Please give a warm welcome to Melanie Williams.
Good evening, everyone. Delighted to be here with you today. And I'll just say, Paul, your picture was much better than mine. So let's move on to the next slide fast if anyone sees it. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And as mentioned, I chair the Outstanding Places Group at the BID. And there's a lovely slide here with a mock-up of some of the projects that we do, which you'll see on the right-hand side. Really just by way of some reflection, one of the familiar scenes of COVID-19 is, of course, all the images that we've seen of empty streets in cities around the world, with our normal hubbub of activity reduced just to a whisper of essential trips. And of course, we all miss the hubbub of Birmingham city centre. And we feel that that's really been pronounced in our larger city centres like ours. Working from home, being the norm for all of us, when we would normally be bustling around the district, doing deals for those of us who are involved in transaction work and other transactional industries, meeting our colleagues, meeting our friends, meeting new people in various networking events, sporting events, etc. And the myriad of reasons that we like to be out and about. We're social people, and we love to mix business and pleasure, particularly in the district. So all of that, you would think with COVID-19 in the last 11 months, what is the relevance of the Outstanding Places Working Group? Well, actually, lots. So we had a short interruption whilst we sorted out the COVID-safe construction practices. We put a lot of focus on that out of our group in Outstanding Places. We looked then, after we got through that, at getting on with some of the building schemes that we've been doing. So our Snow Hill Public Realm programme, the transformation of Colmore outside Snow Hill Station. For you who are able to visit the district, you'll have seen those construction works being undertaken. So even those of us who are sat at home, we share the photos, we can see that happening, and we're all really excited about getting back in, back to the hustle and bustle and seeing all those public realm projects and how they've progressed in the last 11 months. We are also powering toward getting this outstanding change to the landscape, Colmore Road, completed by the autumn. So by the time we're all in, we can properly welcome back the pedestrians to benefit from easy navigation of what has been for many years a really difficult piece of urban landscape. Also, for us, it wasn't business as usual. I mean, how could it be? For the second half of 2020, we've been in a desperate race to do what we can help out of our group, our F&B industry, and to be able to provide safer outdoor locations for people to meet and enjoy the district's hospitality. So we committed to getting the idea of parklets off the ground in Colmore in our third term business plan. We bumped that up the priority list because of COVID, and we already had it on the plan. We bumped up as a priority, and the numbers, and installed 5 parklets across the district. We worked with an existing provider to come up with a design that we felt worked for us and our other sector bodies, working with existing hospitality and leisure venues. We also talked to our artists who we previously shortlisted for another project so that we could brighten those parklets up, including putting some urban greening micro interventions along with the original artworks. Hopefully, again, even if venues are closed at the moment, you'll have seen those in location. They're really attractive, and we're really looking forward to them being there to welcome people back when the first unlocking occurs, and people can sit outside in the spring weather. Also, on the subject of greening, we teamed up with the retail bid, seeking £50,000 in funding from the LEP for a greening strategy. I'm really pleased to report that we won that bid, and we'll be starting that valuable work very soon, with an eye working with Birmingham City Council. So our aspirations chime with their ideas outlined in the Draft Future City Plan. Again, it's all about working with all stakeholders across the bid and the wider city. So we didn't let the pandemic or future greening activities cause our attention to drift too far from also the main housekeeping aspects of our outstanding places agenda. And with that, there were 4 key things that we did. So we delivered 71,000 square meters of deep cleansing, which included lifting 500,000 pieces of gum from the streets. Not a nice job. We also put up 100 Christmas lights and other decorations to lift the mood at what was otherwise low-key Christmas, and we felt it was important for our key workers to give them that. We paid for 15 flower towers to bring blooms to the summer as well. Again, important for those that are still using the district, many of them key workers at this time. And finally, we gave the district a wash and brush up every morning to keep standards high for those who just can't work from home. There is much talk of building back better after the strictures of the pandemic. This will obviously involve us thinking smarter, but also greener about what we make so that we can make our district an outstanding place to work in, visit and invest. And much of the work that we've done will take forward for the future.
Melanie, thank you very much. That's fantastic. Just one question to pick up, if I may.
Sure.
After that review of outstanding work that's been going on with all the challenges that we face and that the district faces, why such support around a greening strategy rather than something more tangible and immediate?
We felt that the pandemic actually presented us with an opportunity. It was really an opportunity to start thinking about what kind of district we want for the future. And whilst people aren't around and people can reflect, and there's obviously all the climate change agenda going on in the background, we felt that as a city, we obviously still need to improve the environment and create ecological responses to the legacy of the pandemic. So the funding that we've managed to secure will help us decide how best to provide a more attractive and ecologically sensitive space. And that will invite people back and continue to attract new business to the area. That's what we hope. And that's partly, why we're here.
Great, thank you very much. So after all of that, let's move on to our next poll question. And this one's even simpler than the rest. It's yes or no. Do you think outdoor seating will assist with the return to the city? Do you think outdoor seating will assist with return to the city? Simple yes or no required. I'll give you a moment or two to do that, whilst our next speaker prepares himself and makes sure that he's got a suitably flashed shirt on. There we go, that's probably long enough, is it, Chris, for everybody? Let's see what the results are. Well, there you go. Whoever the 5% is will find you. The vast majority of you think that outdoor seating will be helpful. So our next speaker may pick up on that, we'll see. The next speaker is the Senior Director at Turley, the chair of the Safe and Sound Working Group, and I say this with all due respect and friendship, a person that I've seen, even in this virtual world, a bit too much of over recent months. I talk, of course, of my good friend, Mike Best. Welcome, Mike.
Hi there, thanks Kevin. Yeah, so you could be forgiven for wondering, I suppose, in a year when most of us have been away from the city centre, what role Safe and Sound has been playing in the day-to-day running of the district. Obviously, with businesses shut and everyone at home, what is there for the team to do? Well, when we started back in March of last year, we, I think, probably had a couple of weeks where we weren't out on the street, but pretty much since early April, the street operations team have been in the city on our streets every day doing their work. And we initially spoke to the other bids and the other agencies, the police and so on and so forth, and they emphasised how they valued our place and the relationships that we have with them in providing security and safety around the district. And I think that working relationship has really flourished over the course of the last year as we've all pulled together as a city centre. So we worked throughout the pandemic supporting our partners and keeping the district safe for those people who have been there. One of the key functions of the team was to act initially as a deterrent to thieves, with all the businesses closing suddenly on March the 23rd, not reopening, often leaving valuable equipment and the like in premises. It certainly did attract a lot of interest, and there were attempted break-ins that we were able to foil. And by having that visible presence on the street, that's obviously been an important deterrent. We've also engaged over many years with the homeless community in the city centre, and even though things changed quite significantly with a lockdown, it simply presented a new challenge for us, how to safeguard people who are vulnerable, who don't have a home to isolate in, and often who have health problems as well. So we work very closely with a broad range of partners, including hotels in the city, to ensure that under the government's Everyone In programme, every rough sleeper that we came across was offered accommodation. The positive effects of this obviously have been seen even today in the announcement of the latest figures on rough sleeping, which have gone down significantly as a result of that programme. But we know there are many underlying issues that I think will come back in due course that we need to be aware of and be prepared to address. So as I say, that has been a marked improvement, but the homeless community is still there on our streets during the day, and we're still dealing with them and some of their issues and signposting them to the help that they need. Like many others, we've also taken some of our services online during the course of the year. So we've been providing online safety and security advice with the coronavirus hub and the newsletters going out from Paul Street, our security officer. We've continued to develop counter-terrorism training online, supporting business resilience, and obtaining free access for all district businesses to the National Counter-Terrorism app. In fact, my notes here said counter-tourism, but that sounds like the sort of thing that Priti Patel would say. As remote working has become the norm, we joined the board of the West Midlands Cyber Resilience Hub as well to aid its development during 2020. We're the only bid in the UK to have done so. Our work culminated in Cyber Security Awareness Month towards the end of last year, when we released an online guide on cybersecurity basics and hosted a panel debate with experts in the field on the latest risks and threats to businesses. As you can see, despite the streets being quiet, there's still been considerable work for the team to do. We'll continue to work with our partners to tackle ASB and to ensure that people are offered the help that they need. As you can see from the statistics, whilst those numbers actually, when you compare them to 29, are quite significantly lower, in some cases a half, in some cases as much as a third or even a quarter of what we were seeing last year, we're still seeing activity on the streets that the street operations team are busy dealing with. We've really been the custodians of the district and your businesses whilst you've been away, worked hard to ensure that when you're able to return, the district is still a safe and welcoming place. It's a stark reminder of how, through the work of the street operations team, the bid has really been on the front line in caring for and protecting to our the city. And we're really one team. I'm really grateful to John Joe, Aaron, Ryan, James, Nicole, and the other members of the team for doing a fantastic job for us over the last 12 months.
Great, thank you very much. Very comprehensive, Mike. Just to pick up on one or two of the issues there. With most of the district empty due to the pandemic, why does there continue to be such a focus on issues like homelessness and antisocial behaviour that you talked about?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. We touched on it there to a degree that, whilst rough sleeping has been significantly reduced through the Everyone In programme. The fact is that the homeless community are still out and about during the day. A roof over your head is only really a temporary thing, even for many rough sleepers. So a lot of people being back out on the street. We certainly have seen some sort of familiar characters that have stayed coming into the district every day, but also the change in footfall and almost the district being quieter has attracted other people in. So I know the team have been working very closely with the police and other agencies. Even in the last couple of weeks, John Joe was just telling me earlier on today that a number of robberies and attacks, particularly on single lone females. So I'm afraid there is still ASB and crime happening in the area. And we're still having to deal with it, but the important thing is that our street presence, I think, has helped enormously, and the coordination with other agencies and with other bids has improved significantly over the last 12 months, and we'll hopefully be able to get that forward when people are back in the district.
Great, thank you very much, Mike. So we'll go to our next poll, which picks up on questions around this and that discussion that we're just having tonight. There it is on your screens now. Which issues are important to you and your company? Antisocial behaviour, on-street security, rough sleeping, cyber security, modern day slavery, homeless outreach and street feeding. There are your multiple choice options, picking up on some of the activity there that Mike was talking about, and important for us to know what you think is important. So which issues are important to you and your company? Antisocial behaviour, on-street security, rough sleeping, cyber security, modern day slavery, or homeless outreach and street feeding. So that's probably enough time for us, I think. Chris, let's have a look at what the results tell us. On-street security, backing up some of what Mike was just saying there, 85%, 75 nearly percent for antisocial behaviour, homelessness. They're very big answers, big proportions of you saying they're important to you, but even at either side of a third, cyber security and modern day slavery also important. So very useful to know what you think. But meantime, we move on to the next area of Colmore Bid's business. This is going to be talking about the community building working group, and I said at the outset, I think that one of the things that Colmore Bid has been doing, albeit largely in a virtual sense, has been maintaining and building that sense of community. To talk about that is the co-founder and managing director of SimKiss Guy Recruitment, the chair of this group. A warm welcome in a Zoom type fashion, if you would, for Richard Guy.
Thank you, Kevin, and hello, everyone. I know it's a bit of a theme that's been repeated, but I'm not especially fond of my photo either. So if that can be noted, please.
Additional photography budget for the side.
One of the districts. So, one of the district's great strengths is its sense of community, and we talk about it as the place to do business in Birmingham. So, and not just in a physical way. The buildings and the streets and the squares are really important, but what we also mean is in a very literal way. So that the district is the place to grab a coffee with colleagues. It's the place to celebrate success, meet new people in bars, relax in one of the fabulous restaurants. So the people make the place every bit as much as the bricks and mortar. So 2020, yeah, like most of the groups have said, it's a year that sort of pivoted on a hairpin. So at the beginning of the year, the community building working group we were in full swing with a schedule of events planned for the year. We bought our first well-being fortnight. That was 60 events from boot camps to sleep clinics to help people stay healthy and your staff stay healthy. We welcomed the new year, the Chinese New Year of the Rat, with our lion dance across the city, and launched a new series of events where the Colmore Business District opened its doors and showcased a broad range of activities that we don't always get to see, we really hadn't seen before. So I think everybody will know that those ambitious plans changed in March, and it would have been easy, I think, for the group to have kept a low profile in 2020. So we could have let the pandemic take its course. We could have let you know, just batten down the hatches, and once we got back in the district, pick up with things. However, we felt and we knew that at a time when many of us were facing, you know, real sudden changes to our lives, the community would be a strength that people could lean on. So this year, we focused on well-being, and we provided ongoing yoga sessions, which were free on our Facebook page. The sessions remain well attended, and a recording is available for those who can't make the session at the time. So if your back has been a problem this year because of your dodgy seat at the Home Office, we recommend you give the sessions a go. We also run online PT courses to encourage people to remain physically active at home, and also deliver a broad range of activities around mental health. So we've teamed up with Living Well to provide advice throughout the year, and to those who might be finding things difficult. So we've also continued to celebrate the very best of the district. So we've run the first Colmore History Week. Mike, Philip and the team explored the history of a number of locations across the district, and the publication and video is still available on our website. So if you'd like to find out more, you can find it there. So we also held our Christmas light switch on, very different this year, of course, with performances by Luxury Entertainment, supported by Glyn Pennell and Nicola Fleet Milne, amongst many others appearances in the video. And we were joined by over 2,000 people for that launch. It was terrific. We also ran our ever popular Christmas craft sessions, sold over 100 craft boxes to give people a reminder of what we look forward to in 2021. So as we move to 2021, we'll continue to keep the thread of community running throughout our work. We've launched a new virtual networking series, which has proved really popular so far, and we look forward to running these sessions in person as soon as we're able to. So whatever the future holds, we know that the district will survive as a community, and we will continue to support this in 2021.
Great, Richard, thanks very much. In a year, and you touched on this, in a year where money is tight and businesses are struggling in many cases, many of these initiatives seem like nice to haves, or they might seem like nice to haves to some. Should this really be a focus for the bid?
Well, community is a key part of what makes the district successful. So we're able to provide the kind of services that a lot of small business have never been able to, or suddenly now can't afford to. So we've focused this year on well-being, as it's key for for a healthy and productive workforce. So many people are going to be working in places that aren't designed for work, with limited human contact. Providing these services can help those people stay healthy and connected, and it's really important both for their health but the health of the businesses they're working in. So the sense of the district being a village green, which I mentioned earlier, where everyone does business, is really important, and it is something that's been developed over many years. And this kind of environment isn't something that you can generate out of nothing or switch off and just switch on again. It needs to be encouraged and curated, and at a time when it's particularly under threat, protected. So what else would we do but continue to focus on community? Once it's gone, it's just too difficult to bring back.
Yeah, absolutely. Richard, thank you very much. Thanks for your update and your report. And we're going to take our last actual poll this time on the subject, of course, of community building. How would you prefer us to deliver events once the city reopens? How would you prefer us to do events at Colmore Bid? Is it in person? Is it to continue with Zoom and online content, or is it a mixture of in person and online? Which of those sort of formats would you like to see us continue to deliver events? Which platform, or both? Give you another 10 seconds to have a little think about that and fill that in, reflect on what Richard was saying. And we're going to get some results. Oh, here we go. We've gone down the middle. We've gone down that word that we're all using about the future, hybrid, a mixture of both. in person 30%. Continue with Zoom online. I think Chris will be happy about that. He won't have to run all the back end of an event like this ever again, or soon he won't. But having a bit of online and in person, some people find, a lot of people in this sample find useful. So that's interesting to take note of, and I'm sure something we'll want to keep talking to you about as we head towards the end of lockdown and get back to some version of normality. So we'll close that poll down. We're going to move to any questions that you may have. We'll get rid of the presentation. That might take a second or two to come back to normal. I can see you all again now. How marvellous you all do exist. I'll have a quick look, see if we've had any questions coming in. So I'm going to look for raised hands, be they actual hands or Zoom hands, thumbs, claps, etc. Try and wave profusely so I pick you up. But I'm going to ask Nicola the first question, just to sort of pick up on some of the general themes that have come up during the evening. So let's get ready to unmute Nick. Nicola, you talk, I think, in your opening statement and in the report about sort of adapting and flexing. You thought it was going to be an easy ride coming on Gary's coattails. It would all be a bunch of evening drinks and take on a successful formula. But there's been a lot of adapting and flexing. Where do you see that going to now? Do you think actually, in some ways, the bid has learned things, learned about its the people in the district, the people who use the district, and may take forward some of the things that we've learned, some of the things that you've done? Will there be more adapting and flexing to come?
Yeah, I think it's true to say that in a crisis, you really find out what's important. So we certainly learned, much as the polls have shown this evening, we've learned what people value. And I suspect we've all learned that we have taken stuff for granted prior to COVID. I'm sure I speak for everyone when we, who thought they were in jobs that were always going to be needed no matter what happened, whether that be, bars and restaurants. What could possibly happen that people would decide they didn't want to drink anymore or didn't want to go and eat? So, yeah, I think we have learned that. I hope we've learned that we can support people through all these adaptations. A lot of our venues have had to adapt quite significantly. And we've been there to listen the whole time and kind of listen to what they needed. So there are things that have happened that perhaps have only happened because, there are, I'm trying to think of something that wouldn't have happened anyway, but actually even things like the parklets, they were in the pipeline. The sudden need for them was there. So when we came back out of the early lockdowns into late August and into September, October, those are the kinds of things that people could utilise to better support the venues. So, yep, we've learnt plenty, absolutely loads, and we will take all of those lessons forward, I'm sure.
Okay, thanks very much, Nick. Now let's take another question. I'm gonna choose Richard for no particular reason to answer this question. So Richard, you could make a start on it if you would, but other directors may want to come in as well. Question that's come in, which I think is a good question. Was it a successful year? I mean, clearly we've been living through a terrible period and a lot of suffering and a lot of people doing extremely hard work on the frontline key workers. But for the bid, in some ways, building on what Nicola was saying there, has it been successful for the bid, and will it recalibrate what success looks like for the bid?
I think for me, what's been key this year, and it's that the bids has demonstrated its ability to react to an unprecedented situation and do that incredibly quickly. So the mechanisms proved that they worked. We were able to take feedback from all of the appropriate sectors, and we're able to deliver a genuine and effective plan to support sectors surviving through the lockdown and post-lockdown as well. I think it's important also to just to sort of put a thought out there, is that typically businesses struggle more in a recovery from a recession, whatever the cause of that recession, than they do in the recession themselves. So that's those plans will have to continue adapting and continue to be modified. But I think that's been a real measure of the success of the bid in 2020-21.
Great. Okay. Any other directors want to wave at me and say they want to come in on Paul? You got a question there, Paul, or going to come in there? Paul Jones. That's oh, you're just applauding. That's fair enough. We'll take the applause. All right, we're going to move on to the. Here we go. Gareth, you're Gareth Morris there. You're doing more than applauding. You are actually putting your hand up, which is great to see. We got you unmuted. What's your question, Gareth?
It's not a question. I was just going to comment on the back of the last, actually, if you don't mind, very quickly.
Yeah, sure.
Which was, it has been an unprecedented year, and it's not just the bid that have had to adapt. It's been a lot of the public sector and service, support as well. So I think the parklets were a really good example, actually, for the bid. So initially, I think it would be fair to say there was a significant amount of resistance around just adapting parts of the city to operate differently, to look at licensing regulations, planning regulations. And there were some blockages and some within the police as well, actually. But I think the bid worked tirelessly to push that through. And I think it was the bid helped convince and I'll say pressurise in the nicest sense some of the public sector to adapt and respond more quickly as well. So that would just be an observation from me.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Gareth. I'll move to our next question, and this is going to be potluck as to who picks this up amongst our board directors who've been speaking tonight. Is the bid making plans around the Commonwealth Games? Only about 18 months away. It's still planning for it to happen. Maybe more questions about Tokyo and the Olympics this year, but Commonwealth, we're still headlong towards it. What are we doing in the district to make plans for the Commonwealth Games and all the opportunities that will bring? I'll pick on the chair if no other director waves their hand at me.
Nicola, do you want to tag team with me?
I'm going to defer to my communications manager on this particular point.
I'll pick this one up. So we've been having meetings for the past couple of months, actually, with the Commonwealth Games. Obviously, it is one of the biggest events that's going to have happened in Birmingham for a considerable amount of time, and all kick-started off next year. So there's various plans in process. A lot of the activities will be happening around Victoria Square, as that will be one of the prime hubs within the city, but there are also satellite sites popping up across the city, not just the centre, but out and about in the region as well. So we're in the process at the moment talking about a new arts programme. So encouraging visitors to come to the district, spend their money, stay in the hotels, visit the restaurants, and obviously the shops as well. We'll be putting a couple of projects in the pipeline for that we'll be putting tenders in and working with a number of artists, fingers crossed, if we're successful with that bid funding as well. We'll also be programming our own range of events over the next 12 months or so that are linked to the Commonwealth Games as well. There's also things around road closures around Victoria Square that we'll be working with businesses on as well once we have more information about this. So there's lots in the pipeline, not just from, I guess, a visitor destination point of view as well, but also that will impact the businesses in the district. So there's plenty of opportunities for businesses to tender for their own work within the Commonwealth Games. At the end of the day, there are hundreds of thousands of people going to be visiting Birmingham, including the delegates and the athletes. They're going to need places to eat, to stay, to shop. There's going to be loads of events organised with the Commonwealth Games. They need catering. They need all these different services as well. So we'll be working with the Games as well to promote some of the tender opportunities. So keep your eye on your emails about these opportunities, or if you don't get these sort of emails from us already, please do let us know, and we'll add you to our mailing lists as well. And hopefully you can take advantage of the opportunities that are there as well.
Right, thank you very much, Chris. You're very glad you stepped in there, Nick, aren't you? Now, unless there are any other questions that I can see out there in the audience, I'm going to ask the board directors who presented tonight one final question. I'm going to do Nick last, obviously, but I'll ask them more or less the same question, and it's this. What is it you're most looking forward to, or where are you most looking forward to going to in the district when we're unlocked, when we're able to get back in and operate in any kind of normality? What are you looking forward to, or where are you looking forward to most? and we'll start in some kind of order. So I think that means that I will start with Paul Fielding. Where are you looking forward to most?
Of course, it would be The Office. Only joking, of course not. It's either the old Contemptibles or Primitivos. I love those places, so I cannot wait. The old Contemptibles is my local, even though I live in Solihull. So yeah, I'm looking forward to a nice pint there, I've got to be honest.
Good. As a man after my own heart, Alex, man about Colmore. What or where are you looking forward to most? Let's hold on, Alex. We'll just take you off mute there, Alex. Let's make sure we can hear you as well as the shirt. Go on, and what are you looking forward to?
To be fair, I've spent more time than is healthy thinking about this exact question, to be fair, Kevin, and I still don't have a specific answer. But, I think in short, I'm looking forward to having a full life. I've enjoyed lots about the lockdown, but actually what I've realised is I want it in its entirety. So I'm going to be greedy. But in terms of specifics, I want a good old-fashioned, and I want a good steak. So wherever I can get that, I'm in. But I think that the place I'm most looking forward to really getting stuck into is the Grand Hotel. I had the opportunity to go around on a bit of a tour. It is spectacular. So I really want to go and see that when it's in full chat.
Right. I think I'll very happily join you on that mini tour and in both of those steak and old fashioned. I'm going to go, I think, to Melanie next. There we go. We got you off mute. What or where or both are you looking forward to when any sense of normality returns and we can enjoy the district in its full splendour?
Well, obviously, I'm going to do a 5-pub crawl, each one in a parklet with a cold glass of white wine in each one, and then I'm going to spend the night at the Grand Hotel. Anyone who wants to join me, not at the hotel, obviously, but on my are very welcome.
Well, there is an offer that I don't think anybody can refuse, can they? Now then, where are we going to go to next? I think Mr. Best is probably next. I note he's the only director who's bothered to wear a jacket. Points will be awarded for smartness. What and where are you looking forward to, Mike?
Well, it wasn't a new shirt, unlike Alex, so I felt I had to cover it with a jacket, so I did my best. 2 places, I mean, one I will go to, I mean, yes, there's loads of great eateries and places to drink, but I'm going to go to the Square Peg because Paul has been an ever-present on my group over the last 12 months, and through thick and thin, he's been there supporting us, and I really appreciate that. So, Paul, I will come around and have a beer at your place. And then secondly, I've been really wanting to do more about homelessness over the last 12 months, and obviously it's more difficult whilst we're not in town, but I will be going and volunteering at Cypher Fireside when I can get back into the city centre. So I feel very worthy.
Good. No, I think we'd all applaud that. Penultimately, Mr. Guy, what and where are you looking forward to enjoying in the full splendour of Colmore Business District?
Well, it's not immediately Colmore Business District related, but I'll get there in a minute. So 2020 was the first time I bought a season ticket for Birmingham City for a long time. And what I really enjoyed was a pre-match drink, and we'd go to the Square Peg prior to home matches, Paul. So I hope to be able to see you back there at some point in the future when we're allowed to attend those games. I've also missed, our office is immediately above a wonderful little tapas bar and restaurant, and we used to have some amazing closing meetings. So I'm really looking forward to going back to Pinchos on a Friday afternoon to celebrate a great week with the team.
Very good, very good. Drinks are on you, Richard. Well done. Now we're going to come to the chair last. I'm going to close down the AGM shortly after you, Nick. So as well as answering the what and where questions, plus anything else that you want to say by way of your closing before I bring us to a conclusion. So what and where and anything else you want to add?
Well, obviously I've had enough time to have a think about this, but I'm going to be a little bit of a wimp and say that it's kind of all of it, because the whole time that we've been in lockdown, or everyone's been working from home, I live in the city, so I am able to come and walk the district. but it's not been like being in the district. It's just been like being on some streets, and I could be in any city in any part of the world really for the number of people I don't know that I pass. So what I missed and what I'm really looking forward to is just walking around the streets of the district and those casual hello, hi, how are you, how are things, that and occasionally that, do you want to go for a quick drink, quick coffee, anything like that. So any of the bars and restaurants in the district, obviously I will be frequenting, but yeah, it's just that piece of walking just around the district and seeing friendly faces that I know again. That's something I've missed dramatically. So and on that note, I suppose I have to just say that tonight's been really good. Really enjoyed this. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. I know that, you know, an AGM is not like the easiest sell. You know, come and learn facts, because it's a list of things we've done. And whilst we can be incredibly proud of everything that we've achieved in such a challenging year, it's not always the kind of thing that people want to sit through. So I'm really appreciative. I think everybody has made what their working groups do. Actually, it's really interesting stuff. So thank you, everybody. It's been really, really good. And thank you to everybody who came to and took part. And just in case Kevin doesn't advertise this, every other week, we've started doing a network event, just 6 till 8 on a Thursday night, every other week. So it'll be next week. So if you've actually enjoyed connecting with a few people in a little breakout room and they're being thrown back in the middle, and then imagine that's repeated several times and you've got your glass of wine or your glass of beer, that's basically what we do on a Thursday night. And it's been both really lovely just to talk to new faces and see small faces, but also people do learn a little bit more about what the district is all about while they're there. So I would highly recommend that you come.
Okay, thank you, Nick. You've saved me a job, but Chris has put in the chat there. There's a link to the event on Eventbrite. So if you do want to join next week, as Nick says, or in subsequent weeks, then do book up and come along. I just want to finish by saying thank you very much for coming. As Nick says, an AGM is not the greatest headline sell in the world, but I hope you've got a sense of what the bid team and the board have been doing during this strange and terrible year for many people. Lots of activity has been going on, either about the present day or about preparing for the future. I think tonight, as well as the report that you'll have received, and if you've not already had it, you know, do contact us and we'll get it through to you. I think it gives you a good sense of what the team and what the board have been up to in this most unique of years. It's not on my official script to say, I've not been told to say this, but I will say, I think thanks should go to the team that have put tonight together and are behind the report. Chris, who's been running the back room of Zoom and making things work. It's not an easy task. Katie, who's put it together. Jonathan, in particular, those three have been doing a lot of work. And also, she's remained quiet throughout, but I'm going to give an applause to the Chief Executive Officer, who looks like she's sitting on a throne. I'm sure that's just by accident. Michelle Wilby, well done to Millie and everybody who's been involved in putting not only this event together, of course, but all the work that the Colmore bid has been doing over the last, whatever it is, certainly 12 months and the last 11 months that we've been in this particular situation. So do come along next Thursday into subsequent events. Do make sure you're connected, getting the emails that Chris is spending love and passion over. And with that, we bid you a good night. Go and have your dinner if you've not found it already and a drink. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Thanks very much.